Hello, kindergartners. Today we're going to make a drawing of the life cycle of an apple tree. So I want you to see that I just have a normal piece of paper here. However, I'm going to have you fold that piece of paper in half first. So do you see that I folded it in half? And then I'm going to cut along this dot or this folded line. You might need a little bit of help with this, but do your very, very best because we really don't need all of this paper. We just need a portion of the paper or a part of the paper. So we had a whole piece of paper. I folded it in half, and now I don't need this part. You can use it for something else, maybe practicing writing your name or something. I only need this half sheet. Once you get the half sheet, you're ready to do the next step of this project, and that is you're going to take this sheet. Remember, you can always pause this if you needed to go get scissors or you needed to cut the paper and you weren't quite done. Anyway, the first thing you're going to do is take this, or the next thing you're going to do is take your half sheet of paper and fold it in half. Now I have it in half, don't I? And then you're going to take it and fold it in half again. Remember, like I said, you might just have to pause this. But now I have a piece of paper and you can see that it's divided into 4 parts. I have 3 lines down the middle, but that makes 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're ready to get started. The first thing I want you to do is use a pencil. I'm actually going to use a pen though, just to make it easier for you to see. And I want you to take these folded lines. Do you see those? And your very, very best. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just do your best. You're going to draw a straight line on that folded line. Mine's not perfect, but it's okay. You're going to use pencil. So if you make a mistake, you'll be able to fix it very, very quickly. So I just drew down those 3 folded lines. How does that look? Now I have 4 parts of my paper, and each one of those parts is going to be one of the stages of an apple tree. So the first thing I'm going to do, the next thing I'm going to do, from here the first thing, is at the top, do you remember when we did the apple parts book? We're going to draw a line all the way across the top of this. Do you see that? And up here, we're going to write the different stages of an apple tree. The first stage we're going to start with is how an apple tree starts. I want you to think about it. We've talked about this thing, and it's how an apple tree starts. I almost gave it away. It starts, like all plants, or most plants, as a seed. S-E-E-D. Seed. Now I know this is little paper. If you have bigger paper and it would be easier for you to use a bigger piece of paper, that's fine. I think we'll be able to do it on here. We just won't draw big drawings. We'll draw little drawings. Okay, now I want you to take a brown crayon and the same length or the same way we have a line at the top with our pencil, down here with a brown crayon, you're going to make a line across the whole thing. And that's going to be the dirt. So do you see our dirt down here? That's going to be our dirt. And apple trees are always in the dirt, so that's going to be perfect on each spot. But the first one, we're going to make our seed. So I have this brown line, and under the brown line, I'm going to make a super dark seed. And the first thing we do when we're going to grow an apple tree is we put our seed into the ground, and then we cover it up with dirt. We're going to color super lightly. We've talked about this before. If I scribbled brown on here dark, you would not be able to see my seed, would you? Hey, we're already done with the first box. The first step of being an apple tree is to be a seed. The next step, or the next stage, we're going to get our pencil back out again, and we're going to write sapling. A sapling is the next stage. And what does it sound or start with? S. You're right. S. S. A, sap. That P has a tail that goes below the line. Sapling. So we're going to say sapple. Ooh, that's an L. And then there's that interesting sound of ing. Ing, just like when we did ring, is I-N-G. So that says sapling. And we're ready to make our sapling. You need that brown crayon again, and you need to make that seed because guess what? That seed is still there. However, from that seed, a little sprout has come up and some roots have started to grow. So those are the roots of our apple tree, and this is our sapling coming up. If it was just like this with nothing else, maybe just a little green sprout, it would be a seedling. But we're not going to do the seedling. We're going to skip to the sapling. The sapling is when the tree gets a little bit older, but it's not very old. It might have a few branches. Go ahead and make just a few branches or several branches on your tree. And when the sap is young or when an apple tree is young, it doesn't have a whole bunch of leaves. It just has a few. So go ahead and get a green crayon and make some leaves on there. I guess it's more than a few. Technically, a few is 3. And we're going to make more than 3 leaves. But we're certainly not going to make too many leaves, and our tree isn't going to be covered in leaves. Hey, you just drew a sapling. Make sure you go back and take your brown crayon and lightly go over there to cover that, because that tree would not just be growing up in the air. It would definitely be under the ground. Isn't that kind of cool that we can see in the ground? Okay, if you need to pause, finish your sapling, you can. Otherwise, you can always pause it at the end and catch up then. The next stage of our apple tree is when something starts to grow. Now, this might be the first year. This might be the second year, the third year, maybe even the fourth year. It's going to take quite a while to get as big as the next one. But even when it's little, it might get 1 or 2 of these. They're going to come out in the springtime. Does anyone know what it might be? It's our blossoms. So then our apple tree gets blossoms. BLOSSOM. And our apple tree will blossom. When an apple tree blossoms, or you could say an apple tree is blossoming, then it has a lot of blossoms on it. Okay, so our apple tree will blossom. Let's go ahead and make our seed. That seed is still there. It gets harder and harder to find though, because the tree is going to be a little bit bigger. So make your trunk, and there's going to be quite a few more roots now. This tree. Did you know there's something I've heard that when you look at a tree above ground, it has that many roots below the ground. So go outside and find a tree, and if a tree is this big up on top, then the roots down here would be this big too. Isn't that interesting? I think that's very interesting. I also learned once to make really good looking branches on a tree, all it is a whole bunch of Ys. So look at Mrs. Ernest, I'm going to make a line and then the other line to make a Y. Are my branches looking like Ys? They sure are. So if you want to make a good looking tree, just make a whole bunch of the letter Y. That works pretty good, doesn't it? Okay, I'm going to stop there. And now, in the springtime, before the green leaves pop out, you're going to see your blossoms. Now, blossoms are really white with a little bit of pink or red, but I only have an 8-pack of crayons, so I have my red crayon here. And I really can't make white flowers, can I? Because if I make white flowers, I really won't be able to see them. So I'm going to go ahead and just make red flowers outlined. And to make a red blossom outlined, you only have to make, remember we already learned how many petals? Oops, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I thought I was 1 short there. Go ahead and make some apple blossoms with 5 petals. I'm going to take my time and do well. I'm going to put one right in the middle. When you look at an apple tree, it blossoms all over it. It'll be covered in them. How does my apple blossom look? If you want, you could always make little red and white circles. You could just make little circles if those blobs are getting too tricky to make, which I totally understand. You have to remember, Mrs. Ernest has been making, those actually make it look really neat. She's been making apple blossoms for quite a while, so I've had lots and lots of practice. Can you see what I forgot? I forgot to cover my roots with dirt. Let's cover those roots with dirt. Okay, our last one. After the apple blossoms grow, the next thing that's coming is our apple tree, and it will be a full-grown apple tree when it is covered in apples. So we're going to write apple tree now. A P P apple L, and there's a silent E at the end of apple. Apple, now tree. T, t, t. We've studied that letter. Teacher. This week we're studying, or last week we studied R. Tree. Can you hear E say his name? That's right, apple tree. And our last one is going to look a lot like this, but we're going to have green and we're going to have red apples. Let's start with that seed. That seed is where everything started. Make a whole bunch of roots this time because this apple tree has gotten so much bigger. And that means the roots are going to go all the way down to the edges. Is that a lot? That is really a lot. And then I'm still going to that trunk that comes up. And the trunk, this one was a little skinny, a little bit thicker. And this one's going to be even thicker. So I'm going to have my trunk come up here. It's pretty thick. Now I'm going to do something different for this. Some people call this a lollipop tree, but I'm going to make this kind of like a lollipop tree. So I just made my trunk, and we're not going to be able to see branches because we're going to have so many leaves on this tree. So go ahead and take your green. A lollipop tree would be if you just made a circle. And that's fine too, but if you can make some little, almost like a bush, make it a little bit rounded or a little bit rough on the edges, that'll look like those leaves coming together. Does that look neat? The next thing we're going to do is super carefully, remember those light circles? Color this tree lightly because we don't want the leaves, we want to have space and ability to put some apples on this tree, don't you think? I think that would be a good idea. So I colored super lightly my green. Now I'm going to take out my red crayon and I'm going to add a whole bunch of apples. With the red, if I color really lightly, you wouldn't be able to see it very well, would you? So with this red, I'm kind of pushing hard. I have it nice and dark red apples. I guess my apples are ready to be picked. Mr. Ernest said tonight he was thinking a Honeycrisp apple sounds delicious. So we might have to make a trip to the grocery store to buy some apples or to the orchard. I think I'm missing one right here. I bet you like apples too. Oh, kindergartners, I just noticed what I forgot. I forgot to cover those roots with some dirt. I did that on almost every picture, didn't I? All right, now when your picture is all done, make sure you take a picture of it and send it to me. And also make sure you go back and listen to the song and see if your apple tree grows like the one in the song. Thanks. Pause it right here if you want to keep watching it and finish.